Welcome to This Day in His Story, created by American Heritage Worldwide, a reminder that every day holds something new to learn. Did you know that Louis Braille was accidentally blinded at the age of 3 in his father's workshop? Join us as we walk through the dark and narrow hallways at the National Institute for Blind Children in Paris, where Louis lived and worked from 10 years old until his death in 1852. Learn how, as a student, he improved upon a nighttime battlefield communication system and cracked a code to create a 6-dot cell that is still in use today. Braille's discovery allowed the blind to read and write with their fingertips, making it possible for them to become writers and teachers and communicate without help from a sighted person. Unfortunately, Braille's code was not adopted as the official reading and writing system for the blind until 1854, 2 years after his death.
So for today's deep dive, we're looking at an invention that is it's so fundamentally perfect, it's barely changed in almost 200 years.
It's incredible, really.
We're talking about the system of raised dots, of course. We're talking about Braille, celebrated every year on January 4th. Which is the birthday of its creator, Louis Braille.
Yeah, and it's something we can easily take for granted today. But its creation was a massive turning point. So our mission here is to really trace the history of those 6 simple dots.
Right.
To understand the technical genius behind it, but also, and this part's fascinating, why something so revolutionary was actually met with such fierce resistance.
For decades.
Yeah.
And the starting point for all of this is, it's just so unexpected.
It really is.
This global system for literacy, you'd think it would start in, a university, a library, something like that. But the sources show us it actually came from military code.
Military code. Designed for reading messages on a battlefield at night.
Exactly. What's so remarkable is how Louis Braille took this crude tactical tool and just refined it into something so profoundly human.
And enduring.
Okay, so let's unpack this journey. Let's start with the man himself, Louis Braille. He was born in 1809 in a small town in France, Couvray.
His early childhood seemed pretty idyllic, but his entire life changed at age 3.
And it's just a tragic, tragic accident.
Yeah, it's a truly heartbreaking incident. He's in his father's harness shop, which must have been a fascinating place for a little kid.
Well, absolutely. Full of tools and leather.
Right, and he's playing with one of the tools, specifically an awl, the sharp pointed tool for punching holes in leather.
I can picture.
And it slips, and it plunges right into his right eye.
But that wasn't even the end of it, was it? The tragedy just kept compounding.
No, it got worse. The wound became infected, and then, tragically, that infection spread to his other eye. It's a condition called sympathetic ophthalmia.
What does that mean, exactly?
It's where a trauma to one eye triggers an immune response in the body that then mistakenly attacks the healthy eye. So the result was, he was totally blind by the age of 5.
The devastating loss.
Yeah.
And yet, what the sources all highlight is this incredible determination.
Absolutely. Despite being unable to see, he went to the local school with his siblings. He was a great student, had an amazing memory.
And he is a talented musician.
Right.
An organist.
Immensely talented. And that aptitude is what got him a scholarship to the National Institute for Blind Children in Paris. He was just 10 years old when he went there in 1819.
But this place, it was far from the nurturing environment you'd hope for.
Not at all. The sources paint a really specific, grim picture. Louis was the youngest student there. He was assigned bed number 70.
Bed 70, yeah.
Yeah. The building itself was old, crumbling, narrow, dark stairwells, tiny rooms, and the walls were apparently always damp, smelled of mildew, just clammy.
And the atmosphere, the philosophy of school was even worse than the building.
Oh, much worse. The director at the time, a Dr. Gillier, he viewed the blind as, and this is a direct quote, degraded beings condemned to vegetate on the earth.
Wow. So the entire philosophy of the school was based on, well, it wasn't based on empowerment.
It was the opposite. That attitude shaped the entire curriculum. It was all about manual labor, drudgery, making buggy whips, the bottoms of straw chairs, fish nets.
And I read they even had a contract with hospitals to weave sheets, and they had to weave their own clothes.
Yes. Louis had to weave the fabric for his own clothing. It's just, in this incredibly oppressive place with such low expectations, that's where you start searching for a real intellectual tool.
Because the reading system they had was,
Yeah.
it was basically useless, right? The Hawley system.
Utterly impractical. Valentin Hawi founded the school and came up with this system of embossing letters like raised Roman letters on thick paper.
So you could trace them with your finger.
You could, but the books were enormous. They were incredibly expensive to make, and they were so slow to read. And worst of all, the students couldn't write with it themselves.
So it's consumption, not creation, not communication.
Exactly. And that's the need. In a place that actively stifled communication, Braille started looking for a better way. Which brings us, finally, to the military code.
Right. At age 15, he learns about this system from a French artillery officer, Captain Charles Barbier.
Barbier called it night writing, sonography.
So how does a battlefield code become the template for global literacy?
Well, Barbier's system was for soldiers to pass messages silently in the dark, no light, no sound. It used 12 raised dots in a cell, but it was a phonetic code. It represented sounds, not letters.
12 dot, I mean, that sounds cumbersome.
It was, hugely. No punctuation, no numbers, and the most crucial flaw. The 12-dot cell was too big for a fingertip to read all at once.
You'd have to move your finger around to feel all the positions.
Exactly, which just kills the reading speed. It defeats the purpose.
And this is where the genius of a 15-year-old Louis Braille comes in. The breakthrough isn't just using dots, it's the reduction.
Precisely. That is the elegant innovation. He took Barbier's concept, and he just surgically reduced the cell from 12 positions down to 6. A simple 2x3 matrix.
Which fits perfectly under the pad of one finger.
So you can identify the character instantly, tactilely, no movement needed. That simple change is everything.
And with those 6 positions, you can get 63 possible characters. More than enough for the alphabet, punctuation, numbers.
And the structure is so logical. The first 10 letters, A through J, just use the top 4 dot positions. Then for the next 10, you add a dot in position 3 and so on. It's almost mathematical, which makes it incredibly easy to learn.
A self-contained logical code you can both read and write. And by 1826, just 3 years after learning about Barbier's code, he's already teaching his method to the other students.
He was moving fast. He published the first version in 1829, and then a more complete version came out in 1837. He was only 20 when he published Procedure for Writing Words, Music, and Plainsong and Dots.
Music, too. He didn't just want to enable basic literacy, he wanted full access to culture.
That was the goal.
And the students at the school, they loved it, right? They adopted it immediately. Why was that internal acceptance so quick?
Because it completely changed the power dynamic. The old system was top-down. Expensive books made by sighted people. Braille gave them a way to write for themselves with just a simple stylus and slate.
And, more importantly, to communicate with each other.
Yes. Without needing a sighted person as an intermediary, it was, for the first time, true intellectual independence.
So even with this revolutionary work, he actually had a pretty quiet career at the Institute, didn't he? He taught history, algebra, right up until he died in 1852.
He stayed in the very place he was trying to reform. But, and this is the really frustrating part of the story, while the students loved it, the school's leadership fought him on it constantly.
They actively rejected it. Why? It was so clearly superior.
Pure bureaucratic inertia and ego. They had already invested so much time, money, and, public prestige into the old Hawi system of raised letters.
So it was basically about not wanting to admit they'd made a huge, expensive mistake.
That's a huge part of it. It's a classic case of established power resisting genuine disruptive innovation. And they did actively try to suppress it.
Ow.
At one point, a new director actually confiscated all the styluses and slates the students were using to write Braille, and he burned them.
He burned them in the school courtyard.
Yes, an act of educational vandalism, just to make a point and stamp it out.
That's unbelievable, literally destroying the tools of communication. So when did the school finally give in?
And here's the crushing irony. The administration finally, officially, accepted and implemented the system right around the time Louis Braille died in 1852.
So he barely got to see it formally recognized by the very institution he dedicated his life to.
He didn't. They just couldn't ignore the clear benefits and how widespread it had become among the students any longer.
But once that official barrier was gone, the effect on society was immediate. The students could now publish their own stories.
Right. Braille didn't just teach the blind to read, he gave them a voice that could reach the sighted public for the first time. These personal histories, these memoirs, they completely changed public perception.
From degraded beings to authors, thinkers.
Exactly. Contributors.
And fast forward to today, the design is just timeless.
Right.
That core 6-dot cell is still the universal standard. It's virtually unchanged.
The design is perfect, but the technology for creating it has obviously evolved. Braille started with a slate and stylus, punching one dot at a time.
Laborious.
Very. But by the 20th century, you get specialty machines like the Perkins Brailler with 6 keys, one for each dot position.
Which turned it from a slow craft into something more like typing.
It dramatically increased the speed and ease of writing, and now, of course, we have computerized programs that translate text to Braille instantly, digital displays, tablet technologies.
But to really get the impact, you have to hear from the people whose lives were shaped by it. And the testimonial from Helen Keller is just,
Yeah.
it's incredible.
She lost her sight and hearing at age 2, and she called Braille a precious aid.
I love her description of how she used it. She said it was the only way she could take lecture notes or have her exam papers copied, but her analogy is the best part.
Which part is that?
She said, I use Braille as a spider, uses its web to catch thoughts that flit across my mind.
Wow. That's a perfect description. It's a tool to make a fleeting thought permanent. It's a bridge from the mind to the physical world.
Which really brings us to the core of this. Louis Braille overcame these enormous personal challenges, but he didn't invent this for glory or for himself.
No, he saw a vital, desperate need within his own community, and he just dedicated himself to improving the lives of people like him.
He took a flawed idea, Barbier's code, and used his unique skills and his lived experience to perfect it. He made it efficient, practical, scalable.
It was a determined, collaborative act of creation.
That emphasis on collaboration is so key, isn't it? His invention's greatest achievement was enabling blind students to finally communicate with each other, to learn from each other.
So for the final thought we want to leave you with today, building on Braille's example, he used his unique talents, his mind for geometry, for music, for systems, to serve his peers. So the question is, what are the specific, unique skills that you have right now that you could use to make someone else's life fundamentally better?
And maybe think beyond just individual effort. Braille's system succeeded because it built a community. So consider how you can join with a friend or a family member, combine your skills and help others, drawing inspiration from that same determined collaborative spirit.
Thank you for joining us for this day in his story. May the lessons of yesterday inspire you to see God's hand today and to play your part in his story now. For more faith-based learning, visit ahsworldwide.org, the homeschool for faith and family.